Okay, what we're going to take a look at now is actually adding the page content for the member detailed page. So what we'll do, we'll head back to our member detail component template, and what we'll do, we'll just remove this h1, and what we'll do is we'll add a div with a class of row, and that should say row, but we still need the conditional here, so I'm just going to say ngIf and member. And what we'll do is we'll use the grid system, so we'll say div and col-4, and we'll add a card inside here, so we'll say div.card, and then we'll add an image, and we'll say image, and give it a class of card-image-top, and we'll say image-thumbnail, and the source of the image will be member.photo URL, and we'll also give this an alternative as well, because when a new user signs up, we're not going to give them the facility to add a photo at the same time. It's going to be something they'll need to do a bit later. So what we'll do is we'll add a string, and we'll go to our assets folder, and we'll add user.png. We don't have this yet, but we'll add it soon. And if we want to be good developers, then we always add something in the alternate, and we'll say known as inside there. And let's just bring that down. And then we'll add a div with a card-body. And then we'll just add some divs that's going to contain properties about the user. So we'll add a div, and then we'll use the strong tag. And in here, we'll say location. And underneath we'll add a paragraph tag, and inside here we'll add member.city and add a comma and just say member.country. And what we'll do, we'll just copy this div a couple more times, and we'll add 3 more versions of this. And after the location, we'll specify the user's age, and we'll remove this and swap this for member.age, and after that we'll say member since, and once again we'll remove this, and we'll say member created, and then we'll say last active, and once again we'll remove this, and we'll specify member last active. In fact, I'm going to have these the other way around, so I'm going to cut this and paste it above the created. For no other reason than that matches the way that I did it before, and that's the way it's in my notes. So what we'll add underneath this, so 2 divs down, we want this underneath our card body. We're going to have a card footer, so we'll say div card-footer, and inside here we'll add a button group, so we'll say div btn-group, and we'll use a class property of dflex. And this means that we're going to use the CSS flexbox system inside here. And what we'll do is we'll specify button and btn or btn primary. And this one we'll use to say like, and we'll just copy this and we'll give it a different color, and we'll say success. And we'll specify message on this one. So let's go take a look and see how this looks on our page. And not too bad, although I've got an extra bracket by the age, and Lisa's looking quite good for a 64-year-old, I have to say. And we've got our last active date and our member since date. Now the dates are not particularly great formatted right now, and we're going to deal with dates later, so don't worry about seeing this kind of date format. And we've got our buttons. Could do with a bit more styling though. So I'll head back to VS Code, and what we'll do is we'll go into the CSS for our member detail component. So we'll say member detail CSS, and what we'll do is we'll just take care of the image. So we'll say image and or image-thumbnail, and we'll give it some margin of 25 pixels. We'll give it a width of 85%, so it's not quite at the edge, and we'll give it a height of 85% as well. We'll take the card-body and we'll remove its padding. So we'll say padding 0 and we'll use 25 for the left and right. And then we'll say card-footer and we'll add some padding in here of 10 pixels and 15 pixels. And then we'll deal with the background color and we'll make it white. So we'll say FFF and we'll give the border -top and we'll set this to none. And let's see how this looks. Okay, a bit better. And I still need to deal with that age property. So I'll just go back to the template, take a look at the member detail component, and I've got an extra bracket there. So if we go back, take a look, then this will suffice for the left-hand side of our page. What we'll take a look at next is what we're going to put in the right-hand side, and we're going to use tabs to give users options to click on about different aspects of the user's profile. And we'll take a look at that next. Okay, what we're going to do now is add the content for the right-hand side of the detailed page, and we'll get some help from this from Angular Bootstrap. So let's take a look at what we'll use from here, and what we are going to use is tabs. And if we just take a look at the example, it just gives us something to click on and we can display different content inside each different tab. So that's what we'll use. And if we take a look at our instructions, we're going to need to import a new module, and then what we just use, once we have the module, then we can use this tab set component, and tab sets take tabs, and we have the content inside the tabs as well. Pretty straightforward. So what we'll do is we'll go back to VS Code. Let's clean out everything other than what we're working on. So I'm just going to close the others apart from the member detail. And I'm going to open up our shared module. This is where we're going to add our NGX Bootstrap components. Now I had some recent success with bringing this in automatically, so I'm hoping this success continues, and I'm going to try and add the tabs module. Darn it, it doesn't work. And I'm going to say for root. And I'm going to have to import this manually, so never mind. So I'm going to say import, and we're going to say tabs module, and we'll get this from ngx bootstrap /tabs, and now it's available. But don't forget, because we're using our shared module now, we also need to export this, otherwise we will not be able to use it. So we need to add our tabs module to the exports as well. So now we have our tabs. Let's go and add them in our component. So what we want to do is below our column of 4, so let's just make sure we get this in the right place, and it's below this div. We're going to add a div with a column of 8 to take up the other 2/3 of the page. And what we're going to use is our new tab set. And we should be able to use this. It's not letting me automatically complete it, but that's because it's a component. And for components, we always need to add the angle bracket in first before we can actually make use of it. So we're going to give this one our own class because we're going to add some styling to this shortly. Although the styling isn't too bad, I just want to customize it a little bit. But this tab set class, we were talking about encapsulation earlier on. And this is an example of a component that hasn't turned off CSS encapsulation. They've encapsulated their own styles. So the only thing that we can do to style this component is to give it a class, and then we have to add the styles that we want in a global style sheet, and then we can affect what's inside here. So we'll take a look at that soon. Then what we need is tabs, and we'll give our tabs a heading, and in this one what we'll do is we'll say about, and then we'll use interpolation to say member.knownAs. And inside this tab we'll just have an h4 for description, and below this we'll just say p, and we'll add the member.introduction. And below this we'll say another h4 tag, and we'll say looking for, and in here we'll add another paragraph, and we'll just say member.lookingfor. And we need 3 more of these, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it below. And we don't need the second part, And the second header, what we'll do is we'll say this is for our interests, and we'll call it interests, and we'll say member.interests. In the third one, we're going to say the heading is photos, and we don't have this facility yet, so what we'll do is just add a placeholder saying photos will go here. And in the fourth tab, we'll use this one for messages. And again, we don't have this facility yet either, so we'll add a paragraph tag and say messages will go here. And let's see how we're doing. If we take a look at our member detail page, we can see we've got our content now on the right hand side. We've got our description. If we click on the interests, we can see that. If we click on the photos, we can see our placeholder and the messages. So this component is working fine. And as I mentioned, I just want to give this a bit of style. So what we'll do, we'll head back to VS Code. And as I mentioned, this particular component, we can't do much styling inside our own Angular component. What we're going to need to do is take advantage of the styles.css, which we have inside our project here. This was given to us by Angular. And if we take a look here, we've got our styles.css sheet. And we can add global styles to this file and also import other styles. Now it's a bit verbose, the styling for this. So inside the student assets folder is inside the snippets, we've got member tabs -css. If we open this, then all we're going to do for this is just copy this and paste it inside this style sheet. And all of this is just normal basic bordering, styling, and we're just targeting different elements in here just to give it a bit more of a clean style that suits our application. I'm not going to go through this in detail because my CSS knowledge is not good enough, and you could probably do a better job than I've done here anyway, but this will suffice for what we're doing on this course. And if we go and take a look, what we can see is that now that our member tabs are slightly cleaner looking, and we've got an underline for each of these different elements. And I'm okay with this. This feels okay to me. And what we'll take a look at next is dealing with the photos, and we'll add a photo gallery inside this particular tab. And we'll take a look at that next.